get rolling really quick. For us, not a lot to address other than, bye week, really great opportunity for our football team. I think getting back to who we are, getting back to the basics a little bit was really good. I think mentally, physically, getting ourselves healthy was really good. And then obviously getting ourselves ready for the month of November. So for us, this team that we get the opportunity to play this week, I think a very standard Oklahoma team in terms of what they've been built on in recent years. Elite playmakers in the skill positions on both sides of the football, and an elite quarterback and a guy that's playing at a really high level. So a great challenge for our football team, obviously going into this football game. But with that said, questions you might have for me.
Matt, go back 2 years ago. How much of the offense did you guys retool in the last 4 days or whatever it was, or slim down, or you know where I'm going with that?
Going back
To Oklahoma, I would say that Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, I think obviously going into that game, it was slimmed down as probably it could possibly be, just because you had a quarterback that you had to get ready in about 2 days, and so I think from our end of it is especially at the quarterback spot, we always simpler is better, especially starting out. So I think from our end, it was kind of retooled to fit the scheme and fit who we had at those moments.
How did that win 2 years ago change the culture to what it is today, in your opinion, if it did at all?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, winning and beating an opponent like this is always I think that's a great challenge. Being able to do that finally was big for our football team at that time. But I think the reality is that whole year was really big for Iowa State football. The opportunity to win games, the opportunity to win conference games, things that hadn't happened in a long time in Iowa State football. And then I had talked a lot about, our staff had talked a lot about when we got here about building a football program. And I think until you started to put some proof to who you want to be and what you want to become, those are just words. So I think that whole year in its entirety was really big for Iowa State football.
Talked about during the bye week, going back to the basics. What were the basics that you wanted fixed up? What did you focus on, really?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just getting healthy. I think for 7 weeks, you get into a run like we had where, every game is a big game. Every situation was a big situation. And I think physically and mentally, number one, getting ourselves healthy. And then number two, continue to pound away at the fundamentals and details that when we've played really good football, which we've played a lot of it, those things have allowed us to play really well. And when we haven't played good football, it's been the fundamental and details that's kind of held us back from maybe being the team or being the best team we possibly could be.
Everybody kind of knows what Oklahoma is offensively, but defensively, how do they look different from what they've been in the past, and what kind of fingerprints does Alex Grange have on that group right now?
Well, I think the thing that Alex brings is great energy, and Alex is young. He's a guy that's got great knowledge of the game, and I think the one thing you see that defense is, boy, there's a sense of energy flying around the football, and I think that consistency through what they've played in the 8 football games has showed up on every videotape. And they've got great playmakers in some great positions for them defensively, and I think Alex has done a really good job putting those guys in position to be really successful.
How have you seen the running backs evolve in terms of being a threat out of the backfield? I know Brees has 10 catches on 10 targets, but I think totally like 27 catches from the backfield.
Yeah, I think if you even look at our past, the back involved in our passing game has always been really important. And so, I think that's one of the things when we act, or you guys talked about even pre-season, is what's really important for the tailback to be able to do. Run the ball, catch the ball in the backfield, and block. And, I think the evolution of having a quarterback that's got the ability to spread the ball to where the ball needs to be spread, those guys have to have those kind of ability and skill set. And so, it's been great. Some of those guys have been able to make plays with the ball in their hands in the passing game, and that's been real positive for this offense.
I have a 2-part question. A, what was it like playing with Coach Grinch? And did you see a future coach in him? And B, what does it say about Mount Union Coach Karras that so many coaches have come out of a successful program?
Yeah, Alex and I are Alex a year older than I am, but was a phenomenal player. You know, was a safety. Obviously, we're both on the defensive side of the football. You know, had really enjoyed our time together because Alex was, I think, very similar to the way I approach football. Really serious. It was really important. Was a great leader in the program and was a guy that really studied the nuances of football. So, you know, the question of did you see Alex being a coach somewhere down the road, I would say absolutely. And, you know, Alex had a great background. His uncle's Gary Pinkel. You know, so you know he always had a great stepping stone in terms of having great knowledge of what successful football looked like. You know, and he talked a lot about his days going up to Toledo when Coach Pinkel was at Toledo. And then, you know, Alex obviously with Coach Campbell going to Missouri and those kind of opportunities for Alex to always study the game, even as a young football player. And so you really appreciate that. You know, I think the world of Alex. I think he's one of the great football coaches out there right now. And I think you're seeing remnants of that as how this Oklahoma team's play great defense. And Coach Karras, I think it just, you look at a program where success was sustainable for a long period of time and even having success today. The one common denominator that I've always believed is you got to love football. You got to love going every day and getting better at the sport of football. And I think the one common thread that Coach Karras was able to get in recruiting was young men that love the sport of football. And to be able to nurture that as players, and then so many of those players wanting to go into the coaching. And to be honest with you, I think some of the best coaches are some of the high school coaches that decided maybe not to get into college or get into the professional rank, but are high school football coaches right now. So many of those guys who maybe are some of the best coaches of that tree and having incredible careers, and whether it's in the state of Ohio or Michigan or Pennsylvania over there, a lot of those guys in the Midwest doing unbelievable things. So I think a huge credit to Coach Karras, and we would all say we wouldn't be here without him, his discipline, his detail, pushing us and guiding us through the way. He's a really special person.
Two quick questions about Charlie Kolar. First off, I saw that his mom was a professor at OU and his dad is the head of the hydrodynamic modeling group. What on earth is that? And have you ever talked to them and kind of felt a little over your head a little bit?
Yeah, when I talk to Charlie, I feel over my head. So, you know, usually when that's got to come from somewhere. But, you know, Charlie's parents are amazing people. I really enjoyed going through the recruiting process with Charlie's parents. We've got a really great relationship. You know, I think one of the things you see in both their sons is the success that they have, not just on the field, but off the field. And they've done a great job parenting their children. I think that's one of the things as a young coach you see the people who do a great job of parenting and upbringing their children. And, you know, Charlie's got younger siblings who are ultra successful already as well. And so just tremendous people, and you can see why they laid a great foundation into their two sons, at least in our program right now, and why they're so successful.
And just lastly about Charlie, he's put up some crazy stats right now. What about his style or what you're doing with him is allowing him to score so much and catch so many balls?
Yeah, you know, I just think Charlie's a really good athlete, and you know, at the tight end position, I think you see this in the National Football League, and it's trickled down now to the collegiate game. That, you know, at that position, if you've got a guy that can certainly be a matchup challenge for a defense, that guy can have the opportunity to be really successful. And you know, Charlie's had the ability to do that. I think you see him continuing to get better. The neat thing for Charlie is there's still a lot of room to grow, and there's still a lot of room to continue to get better. And I think he's up for that challenge, and we'll need him to be up for that challenge for us to be the best team we possibly can be.
Two questions. One, status on Greg Eisworth and his shoulder. How is he looking?
Yeah, you know, Greg will definitely be available. I think he's a guy that really benefited from having that week off for sure. You know, and really back to our last football game when I had the opportunity to come back into that game, you know, I think again, us trying to make the best decision for Greg and for, you know, making sure we get him through the season was the best interest of Iowa State, and for Greg was to kind of hold him out. So, you know, I think he's a guy that really, like I said, really benefited from being able to have a week off and kind of get himself back to, you know, the best health he's been in quite a long time.
And how did you see Brock respond this last week after that loss to OK State?
Yeah, you know, it was Brock responds the same way all the time, which is really fun. That's why it's an honor to coach him. You know, I think, you know, one of the things that makes Brock really special is this unique ability to be present, to be in the moment. And, you know, no matter what happened on the last play, no matter what happened on the last game or the last situation, that ability to bounce back. And, you know, I think one of the great things about Brock Purdy is maybe the greatest competitor that I've had to be around in terms of coaching. And you know, nobody's harder on himself and nobody demands more of himself than Brock does. And I think when you get that combination, you get a pretty special player. So had a really great week, and again, I think really good for him to get himself healthy and, you know, both physically and mentally, and kind of get himself ready for the stretch run here.
Matt, I know you had a week to kind of flush the loss, and maybe not unfair to say that this is the biggest 2-week stretch of the season. Can you just kind of simplify and just detail where this mindset of this team is at as a whole?
Yeah, you know, I think that's what's been really fun. I don't know if you could question, you know, we played 8 games, and I think this football team's looked the same in all 8 football games in almost every situation they've been in. They really play hard. They really compete. When we've got great detail, we're a really good football team. And when maybe our detail lacks, even for a play or a quarter, gosh, we've really struggling. Again, that's those margins that I talk about here at Iowa State, that you have to win in the margins to be successful. And that's not going to change. It's kind of who we are, and it's kind of where we live. And I think the great thing about this team is we know exactly who we are going into the month of November. And so, you know, what I would say is November is where you want to be your best. I mean, and you want to play really meaningful games that mean a lot going into the month of November, and here we are. You know, this team's given themselves that opportunity to do that, and now you know, we get the opportunity to kind of kick off the month of November with a great challenge and obviously a great road opponent, and maybe one of the best college football environments in college football. So it'll be obviously a great challenge for the Cyclones.
Matt, you mentioned going back to basics in the bye week. I'd imagine that looks different after the week 2 bye versus 2/3 of the season is done. How has it been different? What kind of things have you been attacking?
Yeah, you know, I think so much of my address to our kids has been, and if you know, you guys know me, it's really not about scheme. It's about, man, can you, and I think this is really hard when you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds, can you stay the course and keep getting better as the football season goes? And, you know, you're 18 to 22. We don't have all the answers. None of our coaches do, and none of our players do. But if you can just keep pounding away at your craft and keep fundamentally, because what's it going to come down to in those moments when we even haven't played well? It's been fundamental in detail. It hasn't been scheme, or it hasn't been anything. It's been our ability to fundamentally be great. And that's what it's going to come down to in November. And I think that's what makes college football so fascinating, is can you stay the course? Do you let all the distractions come in? Do you let everything come in physically, mentally? And I think the big thing for us is, number 1, get healthy. Number 2, then let's get our sights set back into what's really important. And what's really important for us is, man, we played 7-8 games now, 7 in a row where, you know, between a bye. And now let's evaluate ourselves. What did we do really well? What didn't we do really well? Let's take a step back, and then let's move ourselves forward. So I think it's been real positive for this team to be able to have that setting, because I think this group could really handle it.
In what ways have you seen Julian Jones maybe evolve and change the most in his time here, and playing 3 different positions, and what goes into that, but also maybe some of the off the field ways he's grown?
Yeah, I'm really proud of Julian. You know, I think the 2 stories that don't get talked about enough, and it's hard to, because they're 2 positions that are, you know, they're not the glorified positions in football, but I mean, what Bryce Meeker and Julian Good-Jones have really done for this team. You know, they're 2 kids in state. They're 2 kids that went through a coaching change. They're 2 kids that have grown immensely from who they are as human beings on the field and off the field to who they are today. And they're playing their best, and they are their best in every way, shape, and form today as they're getting ready to, you know, in the next month and a half to 2 months, leave our football program. And, you know, from Julian's standpoint, you know, back to your original question, is here's a guy that's been through a lot, and we know that it's been documented. We can all talk about that. But what I've always seen about Julian is this amazing spirit. Who he really is really special. And, you know, he's got great leadership ability, because he's got this unique ability to get along with everybody in our program. He's got a big heart. He's always done what's best for the team, even though it's never been what's maybe been best for him. And, you know, you probably could even say at this point, you know, he's playing left tackle, he's probably a natural center or guard. But he has played incredible football for this team this year. And, you know, he's physically playing his best. He's went to work. I think one thing that's been positive is we were able to keep him in the same position now for the first time in his career, which I think you're seeing the benefits of the consistency that he's been able to play with for this team. And, I think in other ways, I think Julian and really Bryce, they've been anchors in why this offensive line room has changed. And so, no matter what happens, those two are going to have the ability to kind of leave this program and say, what the O-line was when we got here to what the O-line is now, and the expectations and the standard. Boy, we are the anchors to why that's changed. And I think those guys both can come back into this program for a long time and be really proud of what they accomplished here. So really proud of both of them, and certainly really proud of Julian.
How has Anthony graded out or performed? I don't think we've talked about him much, but in his first kind of full season, and then beyond that, what's the challenge with CeeDee Lamb? I guess it's probably just another week in a good Big 12 receiver.
Yeah. I think from Anthony's standpoint, what I would say is, just tremendous growth. A young player, a guy that in this conference, again, you must be your best, and not even best in terms of just coverability. You got to be able to be physical and tackle. You've got to have the ability within our scheme to, do multitude of different things and do them really well at the corner spot. And so, what I'm really proud of is you see Anthony, he just keeps getting better and better. There's not a drop off from his freshman year to his sophomore year. You just kind of see his production and what he's doing continue to rise. And, you talk about his challenge, CeeDee Lamb, I mean, to me, it is a little different because when you talk about the best of the best in this conference, I think this name is certainly the name that certainly everybody would come to say, boy, this guy's really, really special. And, what I love about him, he's really competitive, competes at everything from at the punt returner to every ball that gets thrown his way. He's the guy on the sideline that you can see that's kind of ushering the excitement amongst that group. So I think it's a tremendous challenge, not just for Anthony or any of our corners, but for our entire football team, knowing where that guy's at and doing a really good job trying to be our best against one of the best in the country.
Matt, what goes into being one of the 2 or 3 fewest penalized teams in the country? And my second part of that is it just me, or is the only penalty Kniffles had is the stupid helmet?
Yeah, when did that happen?
I don't
Yeah, that
remember.
was early. Yeah, that's right. That means,
It seems like forever, but
Yeah.
I mean, just, that's interesting to me, that whole.
Yeah, I just, again, for us, that ability to live in the margins. And, people get tired of me saying that, but I think now as you see us, like, it's who we are. The margins are what allow us to win or lose games. And I think the discipline and detail that we really try to coach with and understand that it's those margins, whether it's penalties, turnovers, creating turnovers, those are things for us that we can control most of the time in terms of winning and losing football games. And how do we coach our kids the best way possible to, not put ourselves in position to get penalties, and then what do we continue to do and demand in practice and how we teach to make sure our kids understand the rules enough to, be really sound. Josh's situation, you're right. I don't know how many of those have ever been on Josh through his career here. The one with the helmet, but I think that's something that you give a lot of credit to. You want your best players to be really disciplined, and Josh is certainly one of those.
Is that the only penalty he's had this year?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't,
Yeah.
I've asked around, but I can go back and look. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
that's a good one. I don't know that. If I would tell you yes, I'd be lying to say I know that for a fact. So, but yeah, Josh does a
I mean,
great job.
especially
of that.
because those guys are playing every snap.
Every snap, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
You said during the bye week, a lot of that time was evaluating what went wrong, what's gone right so far this season. When you're evaluating it, what did you learn has gone right and what hasn't gone right?
Yeah, I think again, from my end of it, and I think our coaches, we had a really good beat on that going into it. And again, what's gone well, we played a lot of really good football through 8 football games. What hasn't gone well is when we're not playing our best, our detail and some of our discipline slip. And whether that's mental, whether that's coachable, that's a Coach Campbell issue, that's an offensive or defensive coaching issue, or whether that's that's a player issue. I think those are all different things in different times. And so I think when the ability to reflect, you take the positive and say, how do we maximize it? And you take the negative and you say, is there a reason why that's going on? And I think for the most part, this is a team that's been really good at self-reflecting each week kind of know those answers.
What's the best way to defend Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think everybody's trying to figure that out, to be really honest with you. I think the thing that I've got so much respect for Jalen Hurts is, you talk about, number one, a really good decision maker. Where do you get the ball? When do you get the ball there? Number two, when do you pull the ball down and run? And then number three, this physical specimen that just has got this unique ability to make people miss. And I think truly one of the best runners right now, on top of one of the best quarterbacks in college football. So anytime I think you have those two dynamics together, you're going to get a guy that's producing the numbers that he is, and certainly in a system where he's got the ability to do what he's doing right now for his football team.
You've talked about how bye weeks are big for the young guys. It seems like every time this time of year after the late bye week, we ask you about, are there any young guys that are starting to emerge, whether it's freshmen or even maybe some other guys that just are young?
Yeah, I continue to say this freshman class that we have here, and I know the public hasn't had the opportunity to see this group yet very much, other than Brees and a little bit of Jairell and, Kamani King maybe a little bit, and DJ Miller. Those are the guys that probably got the most playing opportunities so far. But, to be really honest with you, this group is super talented. And I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed about this group is being able to put this group on the shelf a little bit and just let them grow and develop around some really talented players. And for the first time, here's a class that gets to watch really at every position group, maybe at an alpha, a really tie-in football player playing good football, and see and watch how that guy works and kind of grow and develop. And it'll be really good to see. I think there are some guys that are maybe pushing to either get opportunities come these last couple games, or priming themselves for spring practice. And so, like I said, I love the receiver group that we have, one of my favorite groups that we've ever recruited. I really like this young line group. I think really talented. A couple of the young D linemen I think are really come on and emerged, and so we've seen the DBs a little bit so far, and I think there's a couple defensive backs that are maybe as talented as anybody we have, and just kind of waiting for their opportunity right now as well. So I think exciting is what I would say about this freshman class, and really fun to watch them continue to grow.
Can you give us any names about some of the guys that are really close to pushing?
That wouldn't be fair. If I give you names, I'll let that marinate a little bit for you guys, and if they do anything, they'll earn the right to get their names set. But like I said, Tommy, this group is really doing a great job. So I think you guys will be really impressed with them going forward.
All right, Coach, thanks.
All right, thank you.